They thought it was a toy. In the summer of 1944, when Allied armour rolled into France, German tank crews saw column after column of the familiar medium tank workhorse, the M4 Sherman. They knew it well. They had faced it. They had dismissed it. A 75mm gun, moderate armour by 1944 standards, and plenty of vulnerabilities. To many German panzer crews, the Sherman was not worthy of respect. And so the laughter began. They lined up their friends for the photo ops. They waved. They joked among themselves. They believed their heavy tanks, Tigers, Panthers, would smash these Allied machines with ease. The Western Allies had many more Shermans than Germans had heavy tanks. But quantity alone didn't guarantee dominance. German armour still held the edge in firepower and frontal protection, but the Allies had a surprise in store. Behind the scenes, British tank units had begun modifying Shermans. They fitted a new main gun, the British Ordnance QF 17-pounder anti-tank gun, one of the most powerful Allied tank guns of the war mounted into the Sherman hull. The result was called the Sherman Firefly. Where a standard Sherman struggled to penetrate the heavy front armour of German heavy tanks, the 17-pounder in the Firefly could, on paper, do the job. It could penetrate somewhere around 140mm of armour at 500 metres using standard APCBC rounds, and under ideal conditions with APDS ammunition, up to approximately 200mm or more. So when German crews saw the familiar silhouette of a Sherman, they often assumed it could be dealt with as before. They laughed, they relaxed. They opened themselves to a nasty shock, because the Firefly, with its longer barrel and louder muzzle blast, looked slightly different, but not drastically. Allied crews knew this and selected their Fireflies carefully. German crews quickly came to dread the Firefly. They were instructed in some units to target these tanks first. Picture a German Panther or Tiger advancing over Normandy's fields. The crew spots a Sherman ahead. They fire and expect a knockout, or at least an easy fight. Instead, maybe the Sherman's shot glances off. Then suddenly the Firefly behind it lines up a shot. The German crew hears the crack of the 17-pounder. Then the shell hits. The heavy tank's front glacis shatters, or the turret ring bursts. A panic begins. In one famous episode, a British gunner in a Firefly destroyed 3 Tiger Uyghur tanks in a single engagement near Saint-Aignan-de-Craménil on the 8th of August 1944. From that point on, the dynamic on the battlefield shifted. Allied tank crews felt emboldened. German crews lost a bit of swagger. The laughter died in its place. Caution, fear, respect. But the Firefly was not perfect. Its gun was long, the recoil intense. The muzzle blast kicked up dust and gave away the tank's position. Its high-velocity gun lacked a good high-explosive round for use against infantry or bunkers, and it still shared many of the Sherman's older design limitations. Thinner armour compared to heavy German tanks, a cramped turret, slower rate of fire. Yet what it did give the Allies was something they desperately needed, the ability to face German heavy armour on more equal terms. The laughter of the German crews, born of overconfidence, gradually faded when they realised the Allies could hit back hard, at range, and with precision. So the next time you read about a German crew spotting a Sherman and smiling, remember this. Behind that smile was the assumption that they were dealing with the same old medium tank. But behind that assumption was the Firefly, hidden in plain sight, the underdog turned tank hunter. And in the dusty fields of Normandy, among hedgerows and shell holes, that surprise counted. It counted for morale, it counted for tactics, it counted for the quiet moment when laughter turned into silence. By early June 1944, the brand new tank hunter had arrived. The Sherman Firefly rolled ashore with the Allied invasion of Normandy. It was tucked among the forces of the 21st Army Group under Bernard Montgomery, just when the Allies discovered the full force of the German armoured threat. In the hedgerows and bocage country of Normandy, terrain became a nightmare. Thick walls of earth, tangled wires, sudden rises, all perfect ambush ground for the Germans. The German panzer divisions were equipped with a growing number of elite tanks, the Panther tank and the formidable Tiger Ones. Allied tankers realised too late that many of their standard vehicles, including the common M4 Sherman with 75mm gun, could not reliably punch through German heavy armour at typical combat ranges. That's where the Firefly stepped into the spotlight. With the British-designed Ordnance QF 17-pounder gun fitted into the Sherman chassis, this machine could now challenge the German heavy tanks. On the 9th of June 1944, just days after the landings, a Firefly unit found itself facing a line of advancing Panthers near the village of Nory-en-Bessin. The German tanks swung left to avoid anti-tank guns, but exposed their flank to the Allied line. A Firefly commanded by Lieutenant Henry opened fire. One Panther erupted in flame. The neighbours couldn't believe the result. Battle after battle confirmed a new truth. The laughter of the German crews, who had once greeted Shermans with scorn, began to die. German orders circulated: seek out the long-barreled Shermans first, because they knew the Firefly was different. But the Firefly wasn't perfect. Its long barrel made it stand out like a beacon. Crews worked to disguise it, painting the front half of the barrel white on the underside, dark green on top. Sometimes dummy, shorter barrels were attached to mimic the look of a standard Sherman. Visibility, positional discipline, and tactics mattered more than ever. And so the Firefly adopted a new hunting style. It was typically held back in support, hidden in hull-down positions. The normal Shermans advanced, drawing fire. When a German tank revealed itself, the Firefly would spring from cover and fire at long range. The dynamic had flipped. The hunter now sought the hunter. In the weeks that followed, those German crews who had once smiled at the approaching Allied armour now studied every Sherman silhouette with suspicion. Every long-barreled shadow triggered a tense moment. Is it just a Sherman? Or is it a Firefly? That moment of hesitation could mean survival or catastrophic loss. With the countryside of Normandy as the stage, the silent transformation of armoured warfare was underway. The underdog machine, born of imperfection and necessity, had become a fearsome presence. As the weeks in Normandy dragged on, the Firefly's reputation spread like wildfire. Allied tank crews started to believe in it, and German crews began to fear it. Reports from the field described Tigers being destroyed at over 1,000 metres, something that had once seemed impossible for a Sherman. The long, piercing crack of the 17-pounder's gun became infamous. Some German soldiers said they could tell when a Firefly had joined the fight, because its muzzle blast echoed sharper, longer, almost like thunder rolling through the hedgerows. By July 1944, most British and Canadian armoured regiments tried to assign at least one Firefly per troop of 4 Shermans. It wasn't many, usually 1 in 4, but it was enough to tip the balance. Commanders learned to hide the Firefly in overwatch positions, often waiting in ambush behind the more common 75mm Shermans that moved forward to draw enemy attention. When the Germans fired, the Firefly returned the favour with deadly precision. One of the most famous moments came on August 8, 1944, near Saint-Aignan-de-Cramasnil during Operation Totalize. A single Firefly commanded by Sergeant Gordon and Gunner Joe Ekins of the Northamptonshire Yeomanry spotted 3 Tiger Wide tanks across the fields. They were part of SS Panzerabteilung 101, the same unit that included the legendary German tank ace Michael Wittmann. Ekins took aim. His first shot struck true. The lead Tiger exploded. The second caught another in the side. The third, moments later, was hit as well. Within minutes, 3 Tigers lay wrecked and burning. The German advance collapsed. The Firefly had done what few Allied tanks could: destroy Tigers frontally in open combat. Word of that engagement spread quickly through Allied ranks. Whether or not it was Ekins who killed Wittmann himself remains debated, but one thing was certain: German confidence in their invincible tanks began to crumble. Panzer crews grew wary. They started camouflaging their vehicles more heavily, avoiding long, open roads, and often retreating sooner when they suspected a Firefly was nearby. Even Tiger crews, once fearless, began scanning for the telltale long barrel hidden behind hedges or stone walls. The psychological effect was enormous. German reports after Normandy described Allied tanks as suddenly more dangerous at range. The Firefly had changed the rules. It was no longer just the numbers game of the past. It was precision, range, and timing. But the Firefly crews paid a price for that power. The tank's interior was cramped and difficult to handle under stress. The recoil of the 17-pounder was fierce, and the flash of its muzzle often revealed its position instantly. Many Firefly crews were destroyed seconds after firing their first shot. They had to master the art of firing and relocating before German gunners could respond. Despite those risks, morale among Allied armoured divisions soared. For the first time, they had a weapon capable of facing the German big cats on equal terms. The laughter that had once echoed from German positions now turned to silence or retreat. By late 1944, the Firefly had become a standard presence in British, Canadian, and Polish armoured units across northwest Europe. From the beaches of Normandy to the lowlands of Holland and the fields of Belgium, its long barrel became a symbol of defiance, proof that even an underestimated machine could evolve into a predator. And for every German crew that once mocked the Sherman, the day came when they would peer through their optics, see that familiar shape, and hesitate. Because in that moment, they never knew. Was it the same weak tank they used to laugh at? Or was it the Firefly, waiting to strike? After the bitter battles of Normandy, the Sherman Firefly followed the Allied advance across France and into Belgium. Its reputation preceded it. German soldiers no longer greeted Shermans with a casual shrug. Each long-barreled silhouette triggered tension, caution, and sometimes outright retreat. During the liberation of Belgium in late 1944, Fireflies were instrumental in engagements around towns like Caen and the Scheldt estuary. The dense terrain, canals, and urban areas provided perfect ambush points. Firefly crews learned to exploit every corner, every building, every hedgerow. They would fire from cover, disappear, and strike again. Moments later, German tank crews, remembering Normandy, increasingly sought to avoid them altogether. Even against newer Panther tanks, the Firefly's 17-pounder remained a threat. At ranges of 800 to 1,000 metres, skilled gunners could penetrate the Panther's frontal armour, a feat almost impossible for a standard Sherman. In many cases, Panther and Tiger crews had to coordinate their attacks, attempting to overwhelm the Firefly before it could take a clean shot. This coordination slowed German advances and allowed Allied infantry to press forward with fewer losses. In urban combat, such as during the liberation of Antwerp, Fireflies were used in direct support of infantry. While their high-velocity rounds were designed to pierce armour, they could also demolish fortified positions, concrete walls, and bunkers with precision. Allied commanders recognised their versatility, even though the Firefly was still outnumbered by enemy tanks. By early 1945, as the Allies crossed the Rhine and pushed into Germany, the Firefly had cemented its place in armoured history. German manuals now explicitly instructed crews on how to identify and target the Firefly first, acknowledging the psychological and tactical advantage it provided. Allied tankers, on the other hand, respected the risks. Firefly crews were often outnumbered, and one well-aimed shot from a Panther or Tiger could destroy them instantly. Discipline, timing, and coordination became as important as marksmanship. The legacy of the Firefly extended beyond the battlefield. Post-war, its design influenced tank development and anti-tank strategy. It proved that upgrading existing platforms could yield game-changing results. A medium tank, originally considered inferior, became a hunter of the heaviest armour in the world. Allied engineers studied its successes, and tank designers around the world took note. Firepower, range, and crew tactics could outweigh raw numbers. For the German soldiers who once laughed at the Sherman, the memory lingered. That brief moment of overconfidence in Normandy had cost lives, tanks, and morale. The Firefly was a reminder that war favoured innovation, cunning, and daring, and that underestimating the underdog could be deadly. Even today, tank enthusiasts and historians regard the Sherman Firefly as one of the most iconic examples of ingenuity during World War II. It was the tank that taught the world a lesson. Never judge a machine by its size, its reputation, or the laughter it inspires. And so the story of the Sherman Firefly comes to a close for now. From the first hesitant landings in Normandy to the fierce battles across France, Belgium and Germany, the Firefly proved that innovation could rewrite the rules of war. A tank once underestimated, laughed at, and dismissed became a hunter of the most fearsome machines of its day. It changed tactics, shifted morale, and forced even the most experienced German crews to rethink every engagement. The laughter that echoed across the fields of Normandy faded into silence, replaced by tension, fear, and respect. And through it all, the Firefly's long barrel and deadly 17-pounder gun reminded the world that sometimes the smallest, most overlooked tools can have the biggest impact. It was more than just a tank. It was a symbol of ingenuity, courage, and the quiet power of underdogs rising to the challenge. A reminder that preparation, strategy, and courage can turn the tide against even the strongest foes. So next time you think of the Sherman tank, remember the Firefly, the tank that made the Germans think twice, the tank that turned laughter into fear, and the tank that proved the Allies could face any challenge with determination and creativity. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button, leave a comment with your thoughts, share this with friends who love history, and subscribe for more incredible tales from World War II and beyond. Every click, every share, every subscription helps bring these stories to life and keeps history alive. And remember, sometimes the underdog isn't just a contender, sometimes it's a legend.